Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josey. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of Badassery herself, the real Jen Josey. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josey, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's Badassery Bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is the power of creating an experience for your short-term rental guests. Short-term rentals are more than just places to sleep. They are opportunities to create memorable experiences for your guests. As a host, going beyond providing a clean and functional space can lead to glowing reviews, repeat bookings, and increased income. Here's why creating a unique and engaging experience for your guests is essential. Number one, stand out in a competitive market. With the ever-growing number of short-term rentals, guests have countless options. By offering something unique, whether it's a cozy reading nook, a curated local guidebook, or a themed decor, you make your listing unforgettable. Guests are more likely to choose and recommend a property that offers a special touch. Number two, earn positive reviews and repeat guests. Guests remember how you made them feel. Thoughtful gestures like a welcome basket with local treats or personalized notes show that you care. Happy guests lead to stellar reviews, which improve your ranking on booking platforms and attract new guests. Number three, command higher rates. Properties that provide a tailored guest experience often justify higher nightly rates. Guests are willing to pay more for an exceptional stay that feels less like a transaction and more like a vacation highlight. Number four, build lasting memories. A rental that creates a connection to the local culture or offers unique amenities becomes a cherished part of a guest journey. Whether it's a sunrise yoga setup, a fire pit for evening gatherings, or family-friendly board games, you help craft unforgettable moments. Number five, foster word-of-mouth marketing. When guests have a remarkable experience, they're likely to share it with friends, family, and social media followers. This organic promotion is invaluable for attracting future guests. So, creating an experience for your short-term rental guests is a game changer. By standing out, earning loyalty, and making your property a highlight of their trip, you build a reputation that drives success. Remember, the details matter because in the world of short-term rentals, it's the experience that counts. Now on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us Matt Szalecki. Matt is a licensed real estate broker with Keller Williams Preferred Realty in Raleigh, North Carolina, and founder of Family Building Company. Together with his father, Matthew builds approximately 100 new homes annually in the Triangle, North Carolina market at an average price of $265,000, making homeownership more affordable and attainable. In 2024, he launched an innovative first-time homebuyer program, directing cooperative funds from industry partners to help first-time buyers achieve their dreams. Matt also serves on the board of directors for the Triangle Real Estate Investors Association and has held senior leadership roles with eXp Realty, Fathom Realty, and Keller Williams. Outside of real estate, he's a dedicated family man, musician, and hot dog enthusiast. It's a pleasure to have him on the show, so welcome, Matt Szalecki.
Thanks so much. I'm excited to be here and hang out with you for a little bit.
Yes, and we are local to each other, and I don't even know you, and we have to change that very soon. So,
Yeah.
and I don't even know how we got connected on Facebook, but I absolutely love reading your posts, which is why I originally invited you on the show. We're going to get into your posts a little later, but you sent me your bio and all, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't think I could like him anymore. So this is such a pleasure to have you on the show. I am a little bit under the weather, so audience, please forgive the crack in my voice. But again, this was so important to have him on here because Matt, you have so many great things to share with the audience. So we are going to start with, how did you get involved with real estate?
Uh, I guess it's a pretty short, simple story. It's the way a lot of people get into real estate on the agent brokerage side. I had a job. I was working for Guitar Center. I had like a corporate management job. I found that glass ceiling after a couple of years, and I found myself in that spot where we all find ourselves, where to get your next promotion, you're waiting 10 years, you're waiting for someone to die or quit. They're never going to quit because it's a music store and the musicians, they love what they do. I bought a house. My friend who used to work at a music store got into real estate. He helped me buy a house. He said, "You've got a great personality for this. You should give it a shot." And I said, "Okay." And I got my real estate license, quit my job, and got into real estate.
That is a quick and easy story. And I am a former music teacher, so we were chatting briefly before we hit record about our music background here. So again, reason 236 of why I like Matt so much. So you own a business though with your dad. So tell me what it's
I
like
do.
working with your dad.
It's awesome. We get along really well together. He has built homes since before I was alive, and he started at the ground level, being a trim carpenter and doing handyman projects around town for other people, all the way up to having been at the regional executive level for DR Horton and everything in between. So
Oh, wow.
I can't stump him, which is great. So we decided, once I'd been in real estate a few years, I was like, okay, I understand sales and land and marketing and getting the business put together. You know how to build the homes, which is the part I don't know. Why don't we just work together, and you can stop building homes for other people's companies? We can start this thing together and go do it.
So was there any pressure growing up to go into building and following in your dad's first footsteps first?
No, never. I think he worked so long and such hard hours. We were living in Baltimore, Maryland, and he was usually building down in the Washington, D.C. area. And it was like 2 hour drives into work and 2 hour drives back. Then he'd get home and still have more work to do once he got home. And so I think he kind of had an inkling when I was young that I didn't see that as an attractive thing to want to pursue. And I stayed out of it for a long time. But then it kind of came full circle as I got into real estate and realized we were in the same world, whether we meant to or not.
Interesting. And how did you end up in Raleigh?
He actually came down with Jim Garman, who was the founder of Garman Homes, and he was sort of a co-founder of that back in 2007. He came down to be the general manager as Jim started the company. I was with him the first 3 years with Garman Homes. So I finished up college and followed him down.
Very nice. All right. So I always do a pre-question or pre-interview questionnaire. And I love how you stated this. So you stated you used financial creativity to build momentum. Just great words right there. And held a job for the first 6 years of being a builder until you reached a transition point. So how hard was it to work a 9 to 5 job while you were establishing yourself as a builder? And then I really want to know, what was that transition point?
Yeah, so I think this is just a case of if you want it bad enough, you just do whatever you have to do to make it work. And I really wanted my dad to build with me. He had bills to pay every day. I had bills to pay every day. And so we started off, we found a few investors that we could build for them because we didn't have the resources to just like spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to go buy lots and build homes. We did some remodeling jobs. We reached out to some other builders and people we had worked with before, people I've worked with in real estate, to just get some projects going so that we could both get some income flowing. And I really let him lean on that because you can't be a field builder part-time. You can't be out actively managing projects in the field while also being at a job somewhere else.
Right.
So day one, it was an income driver for him and a future opportunity for me. So I was building every day, or I was working every day. And then in the evenings or on lunch break or early in the morning, I would plug in as much as I could. And For some of that time of employment, I had like work from home type jobs, so I was able to kind of bring some flexibility to the day. But it was just more work, and that's what we had to do to get it going. And then we had to find ways to invite other investors to either own the projects and buy the lots and just hire us to build, or work out little joint ventures and things like that. And it was about 6 or 7 years before we felt like there was enough there and we'd finally gotten enough momentum that we could both sustain ourselves quite comfortably and let go of any other ties.
So that was your transition, realizing I don't need to work for the man anymore. I love that. And you talked about the financial creativity, and that's finding investors who have the money, you have the skills behind it. And so that is really what you mean by your financial creativity, or any other thing you want to add to that.
Yeah, so we came into the business, and it's kind of funny to say now, but we started our construction company with $4,000. I was like, I got 2 grand. My dad's like, I got 2 grand. Let's do this thing. We went and set up shop, got our license, and got into business. And we were like, okay, obviously, we can't just go be investors. And I think this is who's listening to the podcast right now. We can't just like go buy a house to flip, or I can't just like go buy a lot and build it, or a subdivision like other builders do. So he said, obviously, to start, we're going to start small, and we need to find investors or people who could be investors who have the financial resources, but not the time or the energy or the know-how to do this. We need to figure out how to work for those people and work with those people. And if we do enough of that over time, we'll start having enough money to dabble in that stuff ourselves as we grow. So we did about probably 60% building for hire or renovating for hire, where somebody else buys the project and just hired us to come in and handle the work. And maybe about 40% of partnership type agreements. We do the work, you supply the money, we split the profit at the end. When I was just getting started and I was looking through a lot of training materials, a coach I followed at the time said, don't worry about what the profit split is, the percentage split. Just do what you have to do to get in the deal. Your first 10 deals are just to learn and figure it out anyway. So don't worry about how much money the other person is making on your effort. Just get into it, because without that, you'll be standing on the sidelines waiting for something to happen that might never come.
Matt, so well said, because that education in the experience right there is so important to build that solid foundation, building pun intended, build that solid foundation to grow your business. So I love that. And I also like that it took 6 years. There's so many people, I coach students all over the country that think I'm going to be a real estate investor tomorrow. And I watch these reality TV shows where people just get a house and flip it and they make $100,000, and that's what I want to do. And there's so much more to that. And I really love that you did it in a way that you were financially stable throughout it and didn't have those struggles that so many people do in the beginning, and then they're out of the business. And then that leads me to my next question here. And I'm a big believer in, like you, I'm a big believer in integrity and ethics. And there's so many people who cut corners. And how do you incorporate ethics and investing to your properties and the people you work with?
It's really kind of the cornerstone of who we are and why we do everything we do and how we go about it. I don't know if it's just because I grew up in the Boy Scouts or something, but I can't sleep with myself when I treat people badly. And so we care about the buyer who is buying our home. We don't view it as just a financial transaction. From our end, it sort of is, but from somebody else's end, they're going to have to live there and put up with it and take care of that home. And it's going to be a very big part of their life and their story. And it's our job to respect that.
Absolutely.
So we build with higher quality materials than we have to, because we think we should, even though we don't have to. There's a number of things we do in our homes that are above building code, or might compare our $250,000 homes with some finishing materials that national builders are putting in their $600,000 homes, just because we know they're going to hold up better and be good for the homeowner. On the investor side, we make sure to give fair projections to people on what we expect them to make. We give fair expectations on how it's going to go, how long it's going to take, what could happen on the negative side, what could mess up the deal and the financials of it, what can make it take longer than I think it should take.
That never happens.
Oh, yeah, never. only about 60% of projects have something go sideways at some point at least. And we just stay in communication with people and we try and do the right thing. I've always said just because a contract or a written agreement gives you the right to do something, like to twist the screws on somebody, doesn't mean you should actually do that. And
Right.
so I've been known to extend the contract. We're closing a sale today for a buyer who their purchase contract technically expired 65 days ago. We've just been hanging on, trying to give this person a chance to get their finances cleaned up and close their loan. I've let investors uh, cash out of a deal early because they didn't like how it was going. Even though I could have said, tough noogies, you got to wait till the end now and just never do it again. So, and that stuff comes back in the long run. If you treat people well, it will come back. They will either do another project with you later. They will tell somebody about you, kind of like what you were saying with your Airbnb tips. All of that stuff will find you, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing you did, it will come back around. There is karma in the investing business.
Karma is the word that was bouncing around in my brain, and it's all about the long game. And I'm just like you, I'm a big believer in it, and how you treat people is what they're going to remember the most. So I want to now shift to, I mean, it's no surprise that we have an affordable housing crisis in the US right now. And you have made it a priority to build affordable homes to help families find that path to homeownership. But me, on the flipper side, when your average build is $265,000 for the property, how do you make a profit as a builder?
It comes down to a handful of things. One of them is building with volume. If we built two or three $250,000 a year, there wouldn't be enough income to support
Right.
my family and my dad's family. So part of it comes that as we've scaled and now we're doing 100, we can afford to do some of that. But truly, the margins in those deals come from creativity and being willing to build on lots that the rest of the market has passed by or see value in places that other people haven't seen value. So our average lot price is maybe 30 or 40,000. We're buying infill lots on the periphery of our market. We're not in the hot downtown area where all the lots are that 250,000 that we sell our finished homes for. We find places, we harvest affordable land. I'm not a land developer. So we find affordable land and then we figure out what we need to do to efficiently build a house on that property. And the other piece of it is we run a really lean company. We're building 100 homes a year and there's 4 people who work with us. 3 of them are family and there's one other person helping us out in the field. So that enables us to take the occasional roll of the dice on a lot that we don't know quite what the margins are going to be yet, or we don't know how challenging the slope or the soils are going to be. But we try and solve problems that the rest of the market didn't feel like dealing with.
I love that. Can you take just a brief moment and explain what an infill lot is?
Yeah, an infill lot is a building lot that for whatever reason doesn't have a home on it in an area that is already surrounded by development everywhere else. So think of you're driving through a town or a city or a neighborhood, and there's homes everywhere you see, and then there's one lot that wasn't built on, or a few lots in a row that weren't built on. We've described that as infill, and that's the quickest way to turn transactions over. The other part of our, making profitability is we calculate it as a return on investment, and your return on investment can be a smaller total if you also only had to put a smaller total in. So if you only make 30 or $40,000 on a house, a lot of investors would snub their nose at that.
Right.
I'd say, but the lot was 30 or $40,000. That's 100% ROI. Where are you getting that on Wall Street?
Yes, very well said. All right. So I want to hear about your first time homebuyer program. You started this just this year. So how does this work for our first time homebuyers in the area?
So I sort of did our smaller version of borrowing the playbook of the large builders, but I turned it around to benefit the first time buyers. So what the large builders do is they own all of the other businesses integrated into the home ownership journey. They have a preferred closing attorney, they own a title company for title insurance, they own a mortgage company, and they try and give you incentives to use all of their preferred companies so that they can make money 6 times on your purchase instead of just the one in selling you the house. They want to make money on the land development, the construction, the sale, the mortgage, the title, and everything in between. So as a small builder at the volume I'm doing, it wouldn't make sense for me to start all of those companies. And I think there's some ethical boundaries that sometimes get crossed when people get into that. You have to be really careful of. So what I did is I approached my preferred attorney partners, title company, lender, and said, if we could bring you some marketing exposure, if we could direct buyers to you, instead of working out some deal where you give me kickbacks and money on the back end, could you take that same deal and give it to the buyer? Because the first time buyer is the person who needs that money. They're usually buying with just 0% down or 3% down, and every dollar counts. I would like to have an easier time selling my homes and have that five or 10,000 bucks per home go to the person who can make better use of it. And I'm happy to make money as the builder selling the house.
See, listeners, I did not think I could like Matt any more. And you go and do things like this. I think that's just amazing. And people in this area are very lucky to have your organization and helping, because like I said, we do have major issues. I live in downtown Raleigh, and I know there's the affordable housing issue. And they're saying to build, the government in the area is saying build more multifamily, smaller multifamily, so that you can have a duplex on a lot and then have two affordable houses there. Well, what builders are doing, they hear that and they build two $900,000, each side is $900,000 for the duplexes. So they're really not truly affordable. So people like you, innovators in our area, come out and do things like this. And I love it. And I think this is a model that listeners can repeat this throughout the country in your own areas. I'm so grateful to know that there's something like this in our area. So thank you for that. All right. The reason why I found you is because I enjoy stalking you on Facebook, and you have these posts and they're titled Today in Construction. And we own a construction company as well. My husband is a GC, and so these make me laugh so hard sometimes. And you discuss things like abandoning wells. And you said, well, wells are great because then you can water the lawn or you can use them to wash your car. But because it was near a septic, you had to move it. Another one, you're talking about subdividing lots and how the government was looking at things, and because it was written wrong, they're like, oh, I don't see what you're seeing or whatever. And then when Durham relocated the water meter for no reason and just random stuff like this, I love reading it, how you read topographical maps. Anyway, there's so much that you do. So listeners, you got to find him on Facebook because he's so fun to watch. But you had a fairly recent post that really grabbed my attention. And I have students all over the country, and if they are considering a tear down rebuild, which there's a lot going on all over the country for that, I instruct them to find a general contractor and ask them, what's the price per square foot to build in the area? And you had a whole post on this and really changed my perspective of how to ask a general contractor this question. So tell me, share some of these insights that you did in this post, because this was gold to me. And I'm like, oh, I got to stop saying that to people now. So share what you had in that post about asking a contractor, what's the price per square foot to build in the area?
Sure. Yeah. And I can just share from the builder general contractor side. We know people mean well when they ask the question. Realtors ask it of me, investors ask it of me, buyers call and ask me that all the time.
Thank you for making me
feel
feel better.
Roll our eyes. It's a loaded question.
I know. Thank you for making me feel better about asking that all the time. So keep going.
We have to roll our eyes at it a little bit because it's a really deep question, and there is no just like cost per square foot. It depends on what you're building. And so you can do something really basic and simple, and I can do something basic and simple, and we might not do the same thing because we might not agree what basic and simple means. It comes down to principles of affordable and efficient design, or if you're going for style points. It kind of depends on what you're building and what the market says you need to do where you are.
And finishes too. Finishes are huge.
And finishes, yep.
Yeah.
So when I think of like what makes a house the most efficient per square foot to build, first of all, it is building the most useful space you possibly can. Not having awkward angles where it's like a trapezoid shaped room and you can't use a third of it because the way you had to slant a door into the space, or having hallways, which cost the same dollar per square foot or more to build, but you can't sell them because you can't use a hallway. So trying to have open spaces where your points of access are in the middle and the rooms are around the outside, and getting as much functional storage into places that you're not building a ton of extra square footage when the storage is there if you just use it differently. And then the actual physical dimensions of the space. So imagine this, Jen. Imagine we are going to build 100 square feet, and we're trying to build a 100 square foot house. If we do it 10 foot by 10 foot, we've got 40 feet of walls, 4 10-foot long walls to build. That means 40 feet of siding, drywall, trim, paint, all that stuff. Now let's imagine we build a house that's 100 by 1. It's still 100 square feet, but now we have 2 1-foot walls and 2 100-foot walls, and we're building 202 feet of wall. You can imagine that's going to cost basically 5 times the amount. Right. And so per square foot is a function of what you are building. And so I always give people a kind of a blanket statement. And I say, if we're putting a triangle on top of a square, which is the most efficient thing you can do, or even a flat roof on top of a square with just a one pitch, I can be at such and such per square foot. If you're going up the finish level, add 10 or 15 bucks a square foot. If you're going high end modern, add another 30 bucks a square foot. If you're putting it up on a crawl space or on a basement, add another 30 grand. And it just kind of goes up from there. And so the best thing to do, if you want to know my dollar per square foot, is give me a plan. Right. And I can analyze it and get it bid out and give you a number. Because dollar per square foot rules are only functional if you know generally what the build is going to look like. So I know what my dollar per square foot is on the homes I build because I've built all the plans before and they're all similar in design principle. But if you call me, I don't know what your designs are going to look like to give you a price quote.
So now I should instruct my students that they're building a square ranch, 1,400 square feet, that they could say, hi, general contractor, what would it take to tear down this house and build a square 1,600 square foot home? So that is definitely much better perspectives. And it's going to be a starter home, so all builder grade materials and things like that. So thank you for clarifying that, because I was like, oh, that's so good. So that was awesome. And I can remember we used to say it was about $85 a square foot to build like starter homes in Raleigh area when we first started. And we're not getting anywhere close to that now, but because of the cost of material. I don't know, maybe you are, because you have your efficiency and everything. We're not going to talk numbers here, but it is a good general guide though. But you do need to either include the plans of what you need to build and be more specific on finishes, etc. So Matt, thank you for sharing that. And you've given us such great advice on so many things here. And I did a Badassery bestowment at the beginning of this recording. Do you happen to have a Badassery bestowment you can share with the audience?
I do, and I touched on it a little bit before, but I'll just reiterate for impact here. When you're getting started, just do whatever is necessary to get into the business. That could mean apprenticeship and just learning under somebody else and watching and getting to see deals in progress. It could mean getting hired to work for somebody else or helping somebody work on their flips on nights and weekends. It could mean finding an investor or someone active in the business to partner with. But the key is, on your first dozen or so deals, you are a student. You're not going to hit the home run. And if you try, you are more likely to have a really bad outcome than that really good outcome. So start small. Find a way to get in. Don't worry about how much you're making per hour or per deal on those first deals. Your goal is education, and understand that low risk, low reward is a better way to get that education than high risk, high reward. Get the foundation and then go from there, pun intended.
I'm just going to tack onto it because my listeners have heard me say this a gazillion times, but if there is someone in your community local to you who is a few steps ahead of you, or if there's someone who is successful like you in building 100 homes per year, do not go up to them and say, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee and pick your brain? Because that $5 cup of coffee, there's probably $7 now, that cup of coffee is not worth your time. But tacking on to what you said, offer services to that person, get that experience, because that experience then translates into education, which is going to build that stronger foundation. I had a quad on Glenwood Avenue that I was renovating, and we turned it into a short-term rental. And I was like, oh shit, I have 4 units to put furniture together. So I put a post on Facebook and I said, hey, anyone want to help me put the furniture together and help me put up the curtains and all this stuff? And I'm like, P.S. I have beer. But those people who showed up were able to pick my brain for that entire time and really go through it and learn and see it was an education for them of proper ways to set up short-term rentals. So there's many things that you can do. You can ask people to help address envelopes for them. I had a former student who had his degree in, he was an electrician, not a degree. He had his license. He was a licensed electrician. And I was flipping a condo. And I said, I need to swap out a light fixture. He said, oh, well, I'm a licensed electrician. Can I do that for you? I'm like, absolutely. He's like, and I'll bring my truck if you need me to haul away stuff. And he got experience of seeing what it's like to buy a hoarder house and go through all that. So I love that you said all of that, Matt. And going back to the affordable housing and the efficiency and helping first-time homebuyers, it's such a great concept. And if there are listeners that want to reach out to you, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you if they have questions?
I'm pretty active on Facebook, so I've got the social media thing if you want to look me up there, or you can use my email, which is matt@familybuildingco.com. Happy to chat. And I'll just add, when people reach out to me because they want to get involved, if it's an investor reaching out, they're usually saying, hey, I want to learn construction. I know I don't know it. So I'd like to buy a lot and let you build on it. And can I shadow? Can I follow along? Or, hey, do you have a project I can just passively invest in and be a fly on the wall while this project goes? And if it's somebody without the financial resources, they're saying, can I help you find lots? Can I help you get your homes exposed to more agents? Can I help do some open houses? There's always something you can do to help, even if it's not physical labor on site. There are ways to get involved, and I'd invite you to do that with me or with anybody.
Wonderful. And again, your posts are so fun to read. And if you want to follow him on Facebook, it's Matt Szalecki, but it's Szalecki. So definitely find him. He's super fun to follow on Facebook. And we're going to move to the second part of the podcast here, which is what makes Matt Szalecki a badass, which you are. And I use the acronym BADASS, and the first letter is B for book. What's a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
I'd say 2 of them, and they both came out of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad sector. One of them is Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Gongaware. That one just invites people to look into the tax code and understand where there are opportunities for entrepreneurs to have tax savings. And then Loopholes of Real Estate goes even deeper, but specifically into the real estate sector of rental properties, short-term versus long-term, capital gain. Should I do this in an IRA or should I do it just out in the open? And it really helped. After I learned just how to build a house, it helped me think more about how I should go about structuring the business around that.
I like that. I'm going to have to find that one. Definitely Loopholes of Real Estate. That sounds like a great book. All right. The first A in badass is for advice. You've given us excellent advice, like I said, but what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
It was the same advice I'm passing along today. Don't worry about how much profit you're leaving on the table. Just do whatever is necessary to get a deal done and to get established in growth and momentum.
With integrity and ethics, I'm going to tack on there so that you do very well. All right. The D in badass is for drive. What drives you to be successful?
It's a desire to make the world a better place. And I've always had this thing where I like to stick up for the little guy. When I was working for corporate, I tried to work alongside the salespeople. We all hated the man upstairs. And now in real estate and in construction, everywhere I look, I see wealthy people profiting off of non-wealthy people. And so my goal is to try and reverse that and give non-wealthy people the opportunity to buy their own home or invest in a project where they would never be allowed to invest by somebody different. And that's just, I like to believe I study and use the systems of the wealthy to serve the non-wealthy.
I love that. And that's one of the reasons I got into real estate is because I worked for corporate America after I was a teacher and I saw so many people get fired. And it was nothing like that they did wrong. It's just they switched management. And I wanted to take control of my financial future as well. And I too love helping the little guy and pushing through that because you are only as good as the people you bring along with you. So very well said. All right. The second A in Badass is for aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
This is kind of interesting for us because I've decided not to set numeric goals. We are actually happy with our business and our earnings. And so I don't feel a pressure or a need to, I want to make 30% more this year. I want to do 50% more units, or I want to build 124 homes or anything like that. Our goal is just to keep doing better at everything we are doing today, find ways to take more opportunities on lots and everything. Specifically, one thing I'm trying to lean hard into this year is artificial intelligence and virtual assistants. We are a lean family here. We're 4 people building 100 homes a year. And I want to make sure as we continue to grow, if we continue to grow, that I don't need to just start throwing bodies at the workload, because that is how you can wash away all of your profit margins.
Huge. I'm actively looking for a virtual assistant myself to help with this podcast, by the way, because I do all the editing and everything. So it is tedious. I do know what you're going through right now, but that is as well something on my list. All right. The first S in Badass is for systems. With only 4 people, I'm sure you have some great systems in place. So what systems do you have that help you achieve success?
I think the biggest one is just a thorough understanding of what we do and why we do it. So we have a pretty tight, strict business model and we stick with it. I only buy lots where I can build the homes I want to build in the way I want to build them and sell them at the price I want to sell them. So I probably look at about 30 or 40 or 50 lots a day, and I make an offer on 1 or 2 of them, the ones that will fit what we were trying to do. So with that, over time comes the rinse and repeat. My dad and his project manager know how to build these plans. Our subcontractors know what to expect. Our real estate agents know how to market them. They already know the features that are in them. They know what the comps are going to look like for pricing. And so that helps with our efficiency a lot, that we're not dabbling all over the place in a whole bunch of different types of things. We have a process that we can refine and get better at over and over as we go. We use a lot of stuff in Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets, because it's live editing. So you can, post numbers to your budget in real time and not like see, oh, was this version 10 or version 11 of the spreadsheet that someone sent me? And then we use a tool called Zapier to make some connections between software. If you're not familiar with it, it basically allows you to take a trigger event or an input from one app and make it do something else in another app. So I use it like when I fill out a form that says, hey, I just bought a new lot, go into Google Drive and create my folders and my files and set up a template budget for me and notify this person and put this over here and start moving stuff around. So that is what I'm trying to do more and more of, because it helps a lot.
Huge. Yes, those are excellent systems. Before we go to the last one here, though, I'm dying to ask you, how did you become, this is totally random, what drove you to be a hot dog connoisseur?
It probably started with me growing up the son of a guy in construction, because he was always in the road, and we would go on, whether it was camping trips or I was just riding with him in the truck while he was going out to job sites. Construction people eat fast food and gas station food. It's just because you're always on the go. They're driving a couple 100 miles a day on average. I mean, the miles these people put on in the field are insane. And so gas station food and gas station hot dogs was just kind of a part of my life growing up. As unhealthy and horrible as that might sound, I enjoyed it. And why is cheese Whoppies? Rest in peace. So as I've gotten older, I've always just kind of been a fan. And back in, there's actually a history, which is sad, to my hot dog love. But I started noticing that fewer and fewer gas stations had the little hot dog booth or the hot dog stands in there. And more of the ones that did keep it around were doing like cheap, crappy pork hot dogs that nobody likes. It's like a third pork, a third chicken, a third turkey. It doesn't taste like a hot dog. So I started posting about it on Facebook, and everybody got such a kick out of it that it just kind of stuck. And now I'm a hot dog guy.
I love it. And a side note here, when I first started, we have sheets here in North Carolina. So I know in the South you have Wawas, things like this. And when we were trying to build our team of contractors, I would literally go to the food to go or whatever it is and get a little meal and sit by the window, and I'd see probably about 11 o'clock, and I'd start seeing a landscaping truck pull up, a painter's truck pull up, and then they would get their food, sit down behind me, and I'd turn around and food to go, that's what it's called. I'd turn around and be like, hey, so I'm an investor. Do you work with investors? And I need a painter for a project. And they're like, what? So they were least expecting me to attack them in the sheets there, but that is a great way to find some contractors. All right. I could keep talking to you forever because this has been such a great interview, but the final S in badass is for success. What does success mean to Matt Szalecki?
To me, success means financial comfort combined with some personal flexibility and joy.
I love that. Very well said. And joy in hot dogs as well. This has been so fun. And again, listeners, if you want to reach out to him, what is the email address one more time?
Matt, M-A-T-T, at familybuildingco, like co.com.
Perfect. And definitely start stalking him on Facebook because he has great tidbits all the time, enough to make me reach into the Facebook land and grab him for the show. So Matt, thank you so much for sharing your badassery today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And that is all. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery, and don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josey by visiting therealjenjosey.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.